this video, we will continue to talk about VANTAGE, and we will study the natural light, global illumination, the sun, and the sky. And in the previous video, we saw how we can start to import some assets from Chaos Cosmos. We're gonna do that also in other lessons. But for this video, we're gonna use this architecture model that we downloaded from Sketchfab. So I'm gonna show you again the link where you can get it. And this can be used for technical drawings, technical views like more elevations and plan views, but also can be used for simulating an architectural plastic model, not a real building, but can be used also to study the lighting and to make some examples on how we can use the sun and the sky. Now you can see here I have a sun in this scene, but this is not coming from VANTAGE. VANTAGE doesn't give you the opportunity to create a sun directly into VANTAGE, but you need to go here. You can see in the lights panel, we can expand and make this more compact. We can make it basic. We can make it more advanced so that we can access to all the different options that we have in lights. And you can see now I have this Rhino document sun. And this is coming from Rhino. It's coming from V-Ray from Rhino more specifically. So it means that to use the sun and to manage the sun and the sky, the physical sky, we need to get it from another software where we are using V-Ray for Rhino. So in my case, I had a scene, a VR scene in V-Ray for Rhino. I've imported that scene and now I can use the sun and the physical sky. So I'm going to show you also how you can use VR scene, but essentially it's just importing. And you can see now I can expand here in the main options. I have the environment mode. You can see I have also the physical sky. So I can switch from like a standard color to this procedural map, which is called physical sky. You probably know it if you know V-Ray. If you don't know V-Ray, you can just check it in the other courses that you will find in the channel. Courses about V-Ray for Rhino, V-Ray for SketchUp, and so on. Now you can see that if I use a solid color, it's going to be a really simplified lighting. Instead, if I use a physical sky, it's going to be more realistic. But that's not all we can use. We can also use textures, and we're going to see that later. But this is just to show you that physical sky is not just like a simple color, but it's more complex. It's going to give you more realism to your rendering. And again, you can see the sunlight that is connected to this physical sky is the Rhino document sun. So these two elements are connected. They are part of the same system, which represent daylight, which represent also the night. So basically represents the natural lightning of your scene, whether it's day or night. You can change the intensity, you can change the position of the sun. You will change also the physical sky, the background, the intensity, the color. So you can switch from day into night, into sunset, and so on. Now this is the model that we used also in the previous video. You can find the author there, the name, so you can find it in Sketchfab. So I'm just going to show you here from the beginning. So if you have an empty scene like this, you can just go and import. And we saw how we can import like GLTF, FBX, like more generic types of more generic formats. But here, if you want to use like V-Ray Sky, V-Ray Sun, you need to have VR scene. So in my case, I've saved my VR scenes, exporting them from V-Ray from Rhino, V-Ray for SketchUp, V-Ray for Cinema 4D, from many different software. And again, you can find the video courses about V-Ray and with this software in the channel. And also there is another really interesting tool which is called V-Ray Vision in SketchUp, for example, which is gonna let you import VR scenes and it's gonna let you explore them interactively, like walking through, just similar to what we saw we can do also in VANTAGE with the collisions and the first person look. So I'm just navigating into the folder where I stored some of the VR scenes exported from this other software. So if you didn't do that, you probably won't have any VR scene. You cannot do this. You need a VR scene to use a V-Ray Sun, or also other lights coming from V-Ray. So Vantage is intended for you to manage the scenes that you already set up in another V-Ray. So what I'm doing here, just importing a scene that I have created, really simple scene with just a really simple architecture example here, and just a simple sun and sky system. So when I go into lights now, I can see there is a new light. So it's the sunlight right now. And you can see right now I don't have physical sky. So I also need to set up that into Rhino and export again the VR scene in order for me to use the physical sky. Now, if I want a pitch black night, I can also use a solid color and make it like really black or really dark. Well, I usually don't make it totally black. I always like have a pretty dark color for the night so that I can see something but not too much. So it's not really pitch black. And again, we can use a texture, but we're gonna see that later. You can see here with the lamp, and this is the scene that I have just merged with this new one. You can see with the lamp I have this night look with a really dark color. And right now you can see that I have the Rhino document sun and also the lamp inside the lights. And the lamp is just coming from Chaos Cosmos. So Chaos Cosmos is going to give you the opportunity to insert some lights inside your scene without actually going back into your V-Ray application. Now I'm just going to increase a little bit this sphere light just to show you how easy it is to create a night scene look. So just, deactivate the sun or just drop down the sun, use a solid color, really dark color, and just use artificial lights like this lamp right here. You can have that night scene really easy and really effective. Now you can see I also have the document sun right here, but it's really low, so it's looking like a street lamp more than a sun. And if I change this again to physical sky, you can see that everything is more bright because the physical sky is using the sunlight. So when you manage the sun, you will also affect the physical sky. But we're gonna get back to that in just a minute. I'm just deleting things that I don't need here. I don't want any artificial light, just want to use the natural light, sun and sky, just to start with the most simple and natural look. Now we're going to talk about global illumination. Now global illumination is a combination of direct and indirect lighting. So in an exterior space, like when we are rendering a building from the outside, we use probably just the sunlight to illuminate that scene. Well, in that case, indirect illumination is less important, but it's always there also in exteriors. But when we are in interiors, indirect illumination is more important. Well, indirect is just the lighting coming from not directly the source of lighting, but is the lighting that is bouncing all over the scene. And that's also going to determine the quality of the global illumination. So the more bounces you have, the more accurate the global illumination will be, the more realistic your render will be. So everything is based on global illumination. Global illumination is a really important term if you don't know it yet, and it's the basic thing about realistic rendering, ray tracing rendering, and it's used in every 3D software basically, and in every render engine. And it's composed by this direct illumination coming from the source, which in our case in this scene will be the sun, and also the indirect lighting that is going to be coming from the bounces. Also we have ambient occlusion, which can be considered like an indirect shadowing. So it's not a direct shadow coming from the source of lighting, but it's more like an effect that it's generated where it's more difficult for the light to reach a particular surface. So ambient occlusion, and it's another really important term, and it's gonna enhance the details of your scene